pretty much, if you have a dream, you have anything in your heart, a passion, go for it. Just be open. Put yourself out there. That's something that I'm doing right now. I'm building my brand. I'm realizing that I am a brand. You do have value. You do have a lot of things that you can teach people. So whatever that gift, that talent that you have, be open about it and help other people.
Man, that's funny. I first have to put out there, Tay, to the world, that despite you being the Women's Gatorade Player of the Year, I beat Taylor Brown in one-on-one basketball.
I was going to bring that up.
As she was transitioning, I want the world to know this, because I also beat Marcus Thornton when we were in 8th grade, but he won't admit that to anybody. The moments that things like this happen, especially somebody as significant as Kobe Bryant.
Right.
I think in many ways we all expected, when we first got the news, we expected him to be coming out of the ashes with Gigi in his arms, because it's like, Kobe, he can't die. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just it's a subtle reminder. I think a lot of people are mourning. Most of us didn't know, but we're mourning because somebody like as prolific as Kobe died, like reminds us of our own humanity.
I'm Taylor Brown, and I'm here with Darius Baxter.
Hey.
Me and Darius Baxter, we know each other since high school. We went to Bishop McNamara High School.
Yeah.
Darius has done a lot of great things, but more importantly, he's a great person. And I really just wanted to sit down with you because I'm really inspired, by what you're doing and what you've done. We're just going to talk. So, first question I have for you is, for people who may not know who you are, where are you from, and, what's your story, how were you brought up?
Man, that's funny. I first have to put out there, Tay, to the world, that despite you being the Women's Gatorade Player of the Year, I beat Taylor Brown in one-on-one basketball.
I was going to bring that up.
As she was transitioning, I want the world to know this, because I also beat Marcus Thornton when we were in 8th grade, but he won't admit that to anybody. So this is me putting it on record. For those that may not know me, my name is Darius Baxter. Born and raised here in the Washington, D.C. area. Came up through Maryland schools, went to McNamara with you. We actually transitioned to Georgetown together.
Yeah.
After Georgetown, linked up with two of my buddies that I played football with there, and we decided to start a social impact collective. What does that mean? We have a combination of for-profit and non-profit companies, all with the ultimate goal of transitioning 500 families out of poverty over the next 10 years. And we're doing that in a variety of different ways, through physical investments in the infrastructure, into like buildings and roads, investing in entrepreneurs. But I think the thing that we get celebrated for the most is what we do as far as just supporting families. So we provide a suite of services from mentorship to helping people find housing, to people been able to come out to our food drives that we do over the holiday season. We do summer camps. We send kids. Last year we sent 150 kids to camp for 8 weeks, no cost to their parents. I don't know, we do Saturday programs. We do kind of a plethora of things out of here.
Yeah.
Just try to stay busy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So I want to go back to high school. And I know you brought up that you beat me one-on-one. I remember that.
Are you admitting it? Are you admitting that happened?
But I think I was wearing my school shoes.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I don't want to hear that. Oh, no. Oh, no.
But I do remember that. So, since you were very passionate about basketball, I wanted to ask you why football? Why did you choose that sport?
Man, it's crazy. Even at a young age, I have always, I started breaking down early with sports. my knees were just terrible, even in high school. And it was something about running up and down the court in basketball that just put a lot of stress on my body. That even though there was that stress in football, it was a little bit softer surface. So I found myself over time starting to put more effort and time into getting better at football. And by the time you get to high school is really where you have to try to, unless you're an elite athlete, like let's say a Brandon Coleman, who I know you interviewed, you have to really start focusing on, okay, what do I want to get better at? Right. And I saw football as that avenue for me.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then I remember we went to Georgetown together, so McMahon and Georgetown. Yeah. And then, just to, get a little, just to be real, I left. And then I remember, we would still, like, support each other. Like, you came to my games, and I would come
Remember, I left, too. Not voluntarily, but...
I know. I wanted to ask you that, like... Because I remember you saying, man, like, I don't even want to, like, I don't want to be here. Like, I want to leave. And then I was like, nah, man, like, stick it out. Like, you're fine. Like, what was going on? Like, what happened in that time of your life and that, that transition? When you left, and I mean, I know it wasn't by choice, and then you came back. Yeah, no.
When we both first started at Georgetown, I think we were kind of going through the same things. Like at a point, despite we went to a private high school, I'd say it was fairly diverse. Yeah. At least from what I knew growing up. Right. But then you transition into a school like Georgetown, like they say the term PWI, like predominantly white institution, but that was a whole different beast. Yeah. You not only had an overwhelming number of students that were not black. I think we had like 4% black kids at that time when we went there. You had people coming from such a high level of affluence that it was literally, despite us being only a few miles away from where we grew up, it felt like a whole different world. Right. So here I am coming out of PG County, here I am coming out of Southeast, and now I'm thrust into this environment where I thought I was ready for it. Both of us did pretty well in high school. Academically, we never found ourselves in too much trouble. Yeah. And it's like, damn, like, this is a whole new world. Things that were normalized for me in high school are being deemed as like these atrocities now that I'm in college. And I wasn't able to necessarily adapt or even wanted to adapt. I was like, this is who I am. This is how I've survived this long. You can tell me, like, what do you mean I shouldn't wear this? Or I need to talk a certain way, or I'm being too loud. Like, what do you mean? Like, all these things. And I found myself getting into a lot of trouble my freshman year in many ways because I had this coach, and I'll never forget, it was the first day of summer practice before school starts. Yeah. And me and one of the older guys, I catch the ball, an older linebacker, senior guy comes down here, and this is in walkthroughs, and just like lays into me. And I get up, I'm like, man, what the hell? Like, like this walkthroughs. And the coach is like, Baxter, get out of practice. So I'm like, the hell? So, and I get out of practice, I'm like, cool. And I wait after practice, and I talk to him, and I'm like, Coach Diaz, I'll never forget this. I was like, Coach, what's up? What's up? Like, what was that? Yeah. And he was like, I saw the look in your eye. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I saw the look in your eye. He was like, I saw the look in your eye. You were going to fight him. I was like, I was going to fight him. This is football. Like, like, he was like, nah, like, I know where you're from. Like, you Darius the kid. Like, we got out of PG County. Like, I know when you had that look, like, you was going to fight him. And then he just walks off. Like, that was something normal to say to her. At that time, I'm 17 years old. Right. And, like, and I can look at it now and seeing, like, as a kid, I started to internalize some of those beliefs that a Coach Diaz, or I felt like the environment that I was in had about me. Like, that I was just this thug kid out of Forestville, Maryland, that they recruited from the school with the barbed wires around it. Like, and in many ways, I started being that kid. Like, I very quickly at Georgetown, never had drank ever in high school. Very quickly got into alcohol. Never smoked ever. Very quickly started smoking weed. Started having sex like a racehorse. Like, all of these different things, like, to cope with the depression that I realized, that I can realize now that I had. But back then, like, It was just like, oh, I'm just not happy.
Right.
But nah, I was depressed. And the environment, and nothing, again, I think that the universities are getting better.
Yeah.
But a school like Georgetown wasn't prepared for a kid like me to transition there or to provide the supports that I needed as a 17-year-old to be able to transition into that type of environment.
Right. Wow. Yeah, so that's crazy. I mean, I definitely can relate to that, you know, for myself. And, you know, even one of the reasons why I was leaving this hard in college, you know, trying to, like, find yourself. But also, like, after college, so you end up graduating from Georgetown. And then I remember...
By the grace of God, man.
Yeah. Like, I remember we were talking, and didn't you get into grad school? And at the same time, you were doing this.
Yeah.
And I remember I asked you, because I was, like, going through the same thing with ball. Like, should I go to grad school or should I go overseas? And it was just like, you know, you got to follow your passion, your dreams. So, like, is this, like, what you're doing, you know, good projects and good part? Is this your passion? Like, what made you decide that?
Well, I think that's a good question, T. I find myself battling this all the time in the communities that I work in, right? A lot of the kids that we deal with, like, the reason they find themselves going into pathways of criminal behavior is because the people before them went down pathways of criminal behavior. My father was a shooter, so I became a shooter. Like, my uncle sold drugs, so that's how I feel like the pathway I gotta follow to make a living for myself.
Right.
Like, I've been blessed to have great role models and great examples in my life, despite what we may not have had money-wise.
Right.
Like, my mother is still a teacher. Like, my father was a Metropolitan Police Department officer. Like, my grandmother has been serving in the church as long as I've been born. My grandfather drove a bus. My aunts are social workers. Like, you know, like, it's all of these. My uncle was a firefighter. Like, I have like, my entire family has always set an example for me of what it means to live a life of service. So as I started going through college, it wasn't, all right, am I going to be a Wall Street guy? Am I going to go do tech? It was, okay, what am I going to do in service? Am I going to be a teacher? Am I going to be, am I going to be a philanthropist? Am I going to go to the Peace Corps? Like, it was all stuff. Those were like my choices, and they weren't ones that were forced. It was just, that was the example that had always been set for me. Right, makes sense. I think the difference for me, and I think our generation, is I was thinking about it differently. Just watching my mother struggle, like, I see her give 30 years of her life as an educator, and then she would go home, she would go to school, give everything she had, and then she'd come home and sometimes our lights wouldn't be on. You know, and I think that's very telling of the space that I work in. It's like you have so many people like my mother who are giving their all, giving their heart, giving their last to the young people and the families that they support. And society hasn't necessarily repaid them for that. So I wanted to come into this space with a different mindset, saying that I'm going to do my best, I'm going to give my heart, I'm going to do good, but I got to do well too. Right. Like, I want to be a millionaire. But I want to be a millionaire on the back of being able to provide service to others, being able to end some of these issues that have persisted in our community, and it's possible. And that's really what we're looking at here at Good, is like, how do we create that model so the young people coming out of a Georgetown, coming out of a Harvard, coming out of a Bethune-Cookman or FAMU, like, don't think of, oh, you want me to go work do some community work? Like, oh, there's no money in that. But for them to be able to look at what we're doing here in D.C. and be like, damn, like, I really, like, I can see myself doing it, and I can see how they made it make sense. You know what I mean? No, you guys definitely started something completely different, like a movement. For sure. I appreciate that.
And I wanted to ask you, because, you know, I read about your story, and I love how you're open about it, and you're very, you know, sharing your story, very vulnerable about it. You know, when you say you grew up, you were homeless. You know, especially you want to talk about, like, what happened to your dad. You know, you lost your dad as a young child, and I like how you study women and gender studies, and you minor in globalization and poverty. How you put those two together, and it correlates to your life.
Sure.
So if you just just want to talk about that, like just how that's just a beautiful message. I think how you went about that approach.
With what I studied in college.
Yeah, and then your lifestyle, your childhood, how it kind of correlates.
No, 100%. I think just working backwards. Like, I'll never forget, my freshman year, again, going through the transition anxiety, depression, all these things. And I called my mother. It's the first semester. I'm like, Mom, this ain't it. I'm telling you, this ain't it. Yeah. And I'll never forget what she told me. And this is coming from a teacher, by the way, too. She was like, look, you're not coming home. I'm paraphrasing. She's like, you're not coming home. And I'm not paraphrasing this part. Right. And she was like, you better get through there. Yeah. Because C's get degrees. This is what my mother told me. I'll never forget that. She said, C's get degrees. Right. What she was saying at that moment is, you better get that piece of paper. I don't care how you got to do it. Right, get that piece of paper. Right, true. And I was on academic probation my first semester. Okay. So I'm coming out of the first semester at Georgetown, and I'm in my dean's office, mind you, that was Dean Trelonzio, that was my man's, because he knew, he knew I was struggling. I come in there I'm the hot shit. I graduated with honors automatically. Right. I'm smart as hell. I can do Georgetown. I'm good. It's a 2.1 my first semester. And he's like, I'm like, yeah, I can't. I got an F in English, 2. And I'm like, I thought I was a pretty good writer. And I knew I had to take my second English credit. And I'm like, Dean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not taking English. Okay. He's like, you gotta take English. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Y'all gonna have to kick me out of school. I'm not taking another. Right. My confidence can't take another F. I know I'm a good writer. Right. I can't. If somebody give me another F, I'm gonna just give up. Yeah. He's like, all right. He's flipping through all these things trying to figure out what we're gonna do, and he finds some clauses you can take an intro to women's studies class as your English credit. Okay. And I'm like, yes, let's do that. Do that. I can do that. Right. I go and rate my professor. I look at the teacher and everything. I'm like, that. It's cool. Right. And I walk in there the first day, and I convince Richard, who we both know. Yeah, Rich, he got hip to the jug too. And he was like, all right, bet, we're gonna do it together. So him and I in intro to women's and gender studies, our second semester of freshman year, where we're going in at first, and this is me being completely transparent, not we're ready to be super feminist, but literally just this is going to get this credit taken care of, and we're good, and there might be some girls in this class. It's going to be fire. We was the only 2 dudes in the class, and we in there, and it started off us. We were so immature at that time. And as the semester went on, it stopped being less of a joke to me. Because I'm I'm learning more and more about the struggle of women, but I'm not thinking about it as, okay, I'm learning a feminist approach. I'm putting myself in its shoes, this is the story of struggle. Right. Take women out of it. People have been struggling across genders, across cultures, across time. And what are we doing as a civilization, as a society, to support people? Right. It just so happened that I entered into this field through the intro to women's studies class. Right. And I was I came out of that first semester all right, my mom says C's get degrees. I don't really know what I want to do, but I know I was interested the entire semester, learning this. Mm-hmm. I would read the pre-reads. I would pay attention in class. I'm taking the notes. I'm writing the papers, but writing the papers not just, let me get through this, but really thinking, and doing research and supporting it. And I was all right, let me take another one. And I took Feminist Thought 1. And it was the same deal. I was damn, women be going through it. Yeah. And I didn't come into it, and I think this is one thing that gets a misperception when people see that, you were women's gender studies major, you must be this super feminist and all this, and I'm nah, that's not necessarily the case. Right. Obviously raised by a single mother, have tons of women that have supported me my entire life. great women. That most of my company now is women. Like, I think naturally I've developed into a feminist, but for me it was just I was inquisitive. Okay. I had to understand, like, as you can come from this place of privilege, like even as a black man, right. Like with all these woes, it's like, damn, like I feel like the world is against me as a black man. The world is against me. Everything is black man. I'm the bottom of the totem pole. And then you start learning about not just the feminist movement. You start learning about the workers' rights movements in China. Then you start learning the feminist movement didn't just start with Amber Rose. This started with suffrage. Like, you know, and now moving into modern times, like things like you got the tampon tax, right? Like, but Viagra is like, is not taxed. Like, you see all these things, and it's like you start to see all these inequalities across the board. Right. And I think to kind of take it back to, like you said, in my childhood, like I grew up with this mentality, just like that I had to keep going and I had to keep pushing, but understanding that everybody doesn't necessarily have that mentality. And it's up to society, it's up to groups like Good, it's up to governments to make sure that we're supporting all of our citizens. Right. Like, we can't just leave it up to people and be like, oh, like, here's the cards you've been dealt, so figure it out. Right. Like, that's naive to think. Right. Like, it's up to us to make sure that, like, we're pushing, we're proud of, and making sure that we create an equal playing field so that whether you're a woman, whether you're black, whether you're poor, whether you're like a person with an intellectual disability, that you can compete. Yeah. Like, I was blessed to be able to be a little bit taller and run a little bit faster than everybody else. That put me in a position where I got to go to these elite universities and go to private schools, and get, even now, like, thrust into the networks that I'm in, to be able to know the likes of the Robert Smiths and the Mike Milkins, and they know me, you know? But that's all privilege. So I think being a women's and gender studies major helped me understand, even as a black man, the level of privilege that I have in this country. You consider yourself, I know you talked about doing service and being in service, but do you consider yourself an entrepreneur? And if so, you know, what's your perception of that? What's your perspective of being an entrepreneur? How has it been for you personally? Do I consider myself an entrepreneur? I think it's less considering myself an entrepreneur and more understanding the space that I work in. You can't talk about helping people in a capitalist society if you're not talking about capital. I understand that the business acumen that I bring to the philanthropic space, the social impact space, is something that's been lacking, which is why you see, like, let's look at 2018, you had $400 billion worth of investment into the nonprofit space, but everybody, you can clearly see wealth inequality across this country is widening. Poverty rates across the country continue to increase. You got millions of kids across the country that are going to sleep every night without eating. It's like you have all of this money coming into this space, but you have people that don't necessarily have the entrepreneurial mindset that are kind of operating in the space, and you see a lot of waste. At the end of the day, with $400 billion, if you literally just cut a check for all the poor people, we could have solved the problem. Literally. Wow. So, but would I consider myself an entrepreneur? I say, yeah, in the best way possible. I'm a man on a mission that's looking at this space and saying that it needs innovation. Philanthropy, social impact, it's the only multi-billion-dollar industry in this country that's failing, and has been failing for decades, yet continues to get investment. So it needs a new way of thinking. Right. Just think if you were on Wall Street and you were a big firm, and we said, we gave you $3 billion, and you didn't give us an ROI, like, you wouldn't be much of a firm anymore. Right. But philanthropy has kind of been able to operate kind of scot-free on hope and like well wishes. Right. When you got people that are really suffering in this country, particularly children, that need people that are thinking innovatively, that are willing to do things that may not be sexy but are gonna get the job done. Yeah, that's real. And my last question for you, and we can add anything else.
you always have this like positive spirit.
Yeah.
And very uplifting. And even hearing you speak at the Great Day event, like you just had such a great energy about you, great vibe.
Thank you.
Where does that stem from? Like, where do you get that from?
Man, being poor as hell when I was young. Like, you gotta think. Like, I'm 26 years old. I have the ability to like do amazing things literally every single day. Like, I have the ability to be creative. I have the ability to impact the lives of people that I may know, that I may not know. Okay. I'm in a blessed position personally to not be thinking about where my next meal is coming from or if I'm going to be able to pay my rent.
Right.
My mother is in a relationship and she's happy. My brother just started his family in Atlanta, and they're doing their thing down there. Yeah. You started your video thing like I'm the richest man in the world, and it has nothing to do with the amount of money in my bank account. Like, why wouldn't I walk around with a sense of joy? Right. Like, I've had some lows, Tay, and you've been there with me for many of those. But by the grace of God, I've came out on the other side and can stand tall knowing that I'm stronger and that I'm better. I walk around like with a sense of purpose, understanding that God put me here for a reason. Right. And when you see tragedies like what happened with Kobe Bryant this week, it's even more of a reminder why to have a spirit of joy. Right. Because you never know when your number's going to get called. Yeah. Like, life is a blessing. Mm-hmm. Life is truly a blessing. It's truly, truly a blessing. Like, even this morning, like, I found joy, and it's a guy, Dominic. He stands right outside of our building every morning. And I go and I get breakfast across the street. Mm-hmm. And I find joy in the morning that Dominic is standing out there and I get to buy him breakfast. Wow. Because I'm not thinking of it as in, I wouldn't tell Dominic this, but I find like Dominic is a human being. Like, I'm not like, oh, I'm so excited. Like, I get to buy Dominic breakfast, like I'm doing him such a favor. Yeah. Like, I find the joy, I'm completely detached from Dominic. I find the joy in being able to walk out of there after I bought Dominic breakfast and thank God, like, thank you, God, for using me as a steward of like your riches here on earth. Right. Like, for me to have the ability to be able to do that for him. Yeah. Yeah. Like, every gift, every talent that I have is not mine, it's the Lord's. Mm-hmm. So how do I not walk around with a spirit of joy, knowing that God has found favor on me in a way that He's blessed me with all of these amazing things? Right. Like, how could I not think that I'm here for a reason, that I have a purpose? And just even sit and talk about it, like, start smiling and be happy, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard not to be happy and walk around with joy. Yeah. And it took me a long time to get there, but golly, I'm here and I'm firmly planted. Like, my foundation is built on, like, stone. Right. like I'm, it's truly a blessing. So that's really the foundation. That's crazy. And like, one thing I did see, it was one of your galas, like your annual gala. Yeah. And your first one, I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think somebody like donated like $1 million. Yeah. Like, how did that feel, man? Like, that's crazy. Like, I think it's just a testament to. Something that I saw. Actually, Kobe. I was watching a video of his yesterday, and he was talking about just do the work. He's like, don't worry. He's like, we get it mixed up. We feel like we got to go around telling everybody that we doing the work, especially amongst this generation. Right. He said, but when you put your head down and you just do the work, like, the right people will notice. All right. So for us, it's been 4 years of just doing the work, like, to the point that I get shit sometimes. People like, you don't post anything that you're doing on your social media, but you're posting every day. Like, they're like, where's the kids? Like, where's the progress? Where's he been in the office?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, that stuff like, oh, it's all good. Like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
But it's moments like that, and to other people, him giving that $1 million is exciting.
Right.
To us, that's an operating budget.
Mm-hmm.
The more exciting thing is the call that I get from Saquon yesterday, where he's calling me saying, hey, I just moved into my first apartment with my girlfriend. Like, I'm about to go to my interview on Wednesday. Like, you know, I just wanted to let you know, like, so you know that I'm doing something. Like, that brings me more joy than $1 million check, because that $1 million is an investment to create more Saquons.
Right.
You know, Saquon is a kid that has been incarcerated since he was 15, got shipped out to Arizona, escaped from Arizona, made his way back to DC. Like, how the hell do you do that? Resourceful little motherfucker. But like, you know, and seeing his journey, so many people would have counted him out.
Right.
You know, so of course I found more joy in that. Like, money is money, but a human life, you can't replace that.
Right.
So yeah, but the $1 million is very helpful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That was awesome, man.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So, any last words you'd like to say? I know this is a really hard time with the Kobe thing.
Yeah.
That still seems unreal. But anything else you'd like to say about that, or just about, you know, your story, your journey?
No, I encourage anybody that's really thinking about that to check out goodpartners.org. I wrote a beautiful piece called "The Fear of Being Human," that just kind of talks about some of my thoughts around that, and how in the moments that things like this happen, especially somebody as significant as Kobe Bryant.
Right.
I think in many ways we all expected, when we first got the news, we expected him to be coming out of the ashes with Gigi in his arms, because it's like, Kobe, he can't die. Like, you know what I mean? But it's just it's a subtle reminder. I think a lot of people are mourning. Most of us didn't know him, you know, but we're mourning because somebody like as prolific as Kobe dying, like, reminds us of our own humanity.
Right.
And that's something that I've struggled with. Like, damn, I am gonna die one day. It's all gonna be over. Like, I can do all this work, I can grind.
Right.
You can go win 5 championships, but again, like, when your time, when God is like, you know, it's up. Like, it's up.
Right.
But you know, that means even more. We got to go after it every day. We got to lead with love. I'm one of the ones that could see firsthand. The last conversation that I had with my father, we were arguing, and I walked away from him like I'm not really feeling you right now, and I never talked to him again. You know, and a similar situation with Kobe and Gigi. They going to a basketball game, probably kissed Vanessa when they left the house. You know, like, use my story, use the Kobe story as an example. Like, never leave a loved one with malice in your heart. Actually, never leave anybody with malice in your heart. Because I promise you, it's never that serious. It's never that serious. Even the person that does the worst thing in the world to you, we're called to have mercy. Right? So it's never that serious. And just treat every day like, not like it's your last, because I think that's kind of cryptic. But when you lay your head on the pillow every single night, know that you gave that day everything you had. Not half of it, not you were saving it up for the next day or the next week, but like, you gave that day everything you had. And I think Kobe was somebody that lived his life like that. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Darius. This was great. I appreciate you coming on the show. And pretty much, if you have a dream, you have anything in your heart, you know, a passion, go for it. You know, just be open. You know, put yourself out there. That's something I'm doing right now. I'm building my brand. I'm realizing that I am a brand. You do have value. You know, you do have a lot of things that you can teach people. So whatever that gift, that talent that you have, you know, be open about it and help other people.